Good morning, I'm Chanakya. So I'll be talking on Fraze syndrome, cholesteatoma error, Bell's palsy, and crocodile tears. Coming to Fraze syndrome is characterized by sweating and flushing of the preauricular or parotid region during mastication. Hence, it is also known as gustatory sweating. It is seen after parotidectomy. It occurs due to aberrant innervation of sweat glands by the parasympathetic secretomotor fibers of the parotid gland. This statement means that the parasympathetic secretomotor fibers usually supply parotid gland, but in this case, it is even supplying the sweat glands. And because it is supplying sweat glands, sweating occurs at the time of mastication. And also because it is parasympathetic system, it usually causes vasodilatation, and that's the reason for flushing. And during mastication, they cause a secretion from the sweat gland. Coming to the treatment, first of all, you need to reassure the patient, and then you can either opt for tympanic neurectomy or subcutaneous infiltration of botulinum toxin. And this is the clinical picture of Fraze syndrome. Here it is clearly evident that there is flushing and sweating, and at the time of mastication. This is usually seen at the time of mastication. And this is the proposed mechanism of Fraze syndrome. Like I've already told you, parasympathetic system in normal individuals only supply parotid gland, whereas in patients suffering with Fraze syndrome, parasympathetic system also innervates sweat gland. And coming to cholesteatoma error, normally when there is ossicular chain destruction or discontinuity, we tend to see conductive type of hearing loss. But sometimes cholesteatoma tends to bridge the gap or discontinuity between the ossicles, and in such cases, hearing loss is not seen. Even if hearing loss is seen, it is very mild and usually unnoticed. And if cholesteatoma is removed in such cases, then individual usually complains of hearing loss. This paradoxical phenomena is referred to as silent cholesteatoma because usually it is unnoticed and it is not problematic, and it is conductive cholesteatoma because conductive hearing loss is not seen, and because it's bridging the gap between all the ossicles. And then it is known as cholesteatoma error because patient hears better when he has cholesteatoma, and if it is removed, patient usually goes into a hearing loss, that is conductive type of hearing loss. And if you can see this picture, this is the image of a cholesteatoma. And then if at all there is some ossicular discontinuity between malleus and incus, this cholesteatoma is actually bridging the gap and then preventing conductive type of hearing loss. And usually this is unnoticed. And like I've already told you, this person is known as cholesteatoma error. And coming to Bell's palsy, it is defined as idiopathic peripheral facial paralysis or paresis of acute onset. So coming to its management, there are two things, that is general management and medical management. Coming to general management, first of all, you need to reassure the patient. And then if at all there is some pain associated, then you can go for analgesics. And then you usually opt for physiotherapy. Coming to medical management, you either choose medical or surgical management. Coming to medical management, you usually use steroids and other drugs like vasodilators and then vitamins. They are not at all used in these cases, and because they're not useful in such cases. And coming to surgical, we opt for nerve decompression. Coming to steroids, prednisolone is the drug of choice. And if you look at the dosage, it is 1 mg per kg per day, and this is divided into morning and evening doses for 5 days. And patient is reviewed on 5th day. And on 5th day, if the paralysis is incomplete or if the patient is recovering, then dose is tapered during next 5 days because it is a steroid. You have to taper the dose. And if paralysis is complete by then and patient is not recovering, then the same dose, that is 1 mg per kg per day for 5 days, is continued for next 10 days. And then year after, it is tapered in next 5 days. So a total of 20 days regimen is seen in the second case. Coming to contraindications, pregnancy, diabetes, hypertension, peptic ulcer, pulmonary tuberculosis, and glaucoma are contraindications in pregnancy. Because steroids induce glaucoma, you tend to contraindicate in that person because already glaucoma is there, and then if at all you give steroids, it may even worsen the symptoms, so you don't use it in that particular case. And then steroids tend to decrease immunity. That's the reason you don't give it in pulmonary tuberculosis, pregnancy, diabetes, hypertension, and peptic ulcer. Coming to uses, it prevents incidence of synkinesis, crocodile tears, and about crocodile tears I'll be dealing in another next few slides. And usually steroids shorten recovery time of facial paralysis, and if this particular steroid, that is prednisolone, is combined with acyclovir, an antiviral drug, then it can be used for herpes zoster oticus and Bell's palsy as well. Coming to crocodile tears, it is characterized by the presence of unilateral lacrimation on mastication, like Frey syndrome, it is called gustatory sweating, and this is called gustatory lacrimation. It occurs due to faulty regeneration of parasympathetic fibers, and these parasympathetic fibers that are faultily regenerated usually innervate salivary glands, whereas in this patient it supplies lacrimal glands. Okay, that means the faultily innervated fibers which have to supply salivary glands are supplying the lacrimal glands. Hence, instead of salivation, lacrimation occurs during mastication. Treatment of choice is tympanic neurectomy, and this is the clinical picture of crocodile tears. And then if you look at this particular image, this is clearly showing us that the parasympathetic system that has to supply the parotid bed or salivary gland are now supplying lacrimal gland. Thank you so much.